what problem they have? They are not attending.
Maybe they participate to the class after 5:30, and now it's 5:16.
5:30. They will attend 5:30. You want me to wait
Maybe.
them, or you want me to wait them, or shall we start?
I don't know.
I will start
As-
and go slowly to see what will happen. Okay, I will go,
okay,
and if they are able to attend at 5:30, then it's okay. If not, then we can do nothing.
okay.
I'm
I
sharing my
we
screen
can
now.
start.
I'm sharing the screen, and if you are able to see, let me know. Then I will go. We still on the aggregate demand and aggregate supply a little bit. Then we are going to introduce you the uh, quantitative theory of money of Hitman. Hitman.
Yeah, I have the image. I have the
Are you
video.
able to
So
see the? Are
yeah,
you able to see these slides? Slides. You see the PowerPoints.
I'm able to see it. The PowerPoint slides. I'm able.
Okay, fine then. Okay, so you know what is aggregate demand and aggregate supply and the impact to the economy in the short run and in the long run. We already done. I have explained in the last lecture everything, and now we are going to the quantity theory of Friedman. Okay.
Okay, okay, for sure.
Okay. When we go to the model background is based on the Friedman's quantity theory of money, which is very popular. MVPQ. You know, M is somebody else. M is the monetary value, V is the speed of money, P is the price, and Q is the quantity produced and sold in the market. We will exercise this, we will go through this, but let's go to the model. The quantity equation, as I mentioned to you, is MV is equal to PQ. Is very important because it is somehow helping hand to balancing the economy from the prices and from the quantity produced and sold. Because as you are understanding, when the price is going up, it is not good. When the rising the general price level, it is inflation, and it is affecting and changing the economy, and we are stagnating. We are having some problems the economy, and these problems are having some impact to the other parameters, which is not good for sustainable economical model. Due to this reason, when we are questioning this quantity equation as aggregate demand and assumes long run supply to be perfectly vertical, as I mentioned to you, it is not affected in the long run from the price changes, but in the short run, it is affected. If you remember, you attended last class, I think, isn't it? You attend to the last class. Did you remember the graphics, the graphs that we introduced on the slides?
Yeah, I attend to
And
the
you
class
probably
last.
remembered the long run aggregate supply is a vertical line, and the short run is of course increasing as you know the supply curve. It is exactly the same, but it is in the aggregate level, and the demand is affected, and it is inversely proportional with the GDP and the inflation, also called the GDP, Q and P. Between Q and P, quantity and price, there is an inversely proportional relationship. For the demand and for the supply, there is increasing proportional relationship. And this is for the short run, of course. The long run, as I said to you, the supply side, the aggregate supply is not affected because it is a vertical line. And when the price is changed, it is not affecting and changing the. If the model is out of equilibrium, it is the change in price level that returns the model to equilibrium. So it is sometimes depending to the elasticity, and if the elasticity is, as you know, if it is perfectly elastic, then it is somehow parallel line to the x-axis, and if it is inelastic, then it will be, we are talking about for the quantity, of course, it will be then not effective, and it is then vertical line, as I mentioned to you, not affected from the price changes. And from this point of view, elasticity problem becomes more important as much as you are bringing the economy to the equilibrium, or trying to bring to the supply and demand side in aggregate level to the equilibrium. This elasticity is becoming very important and eligible problem in the economy. We are going to exercise in the following chapters and following slides. As I mentioned to you, the quantity theory of money is MV is equal to PQ, and M is the amount of the money, also called the monetary value, the money, and V is the velocity, so-called the speed of money, which is circulating in the economy, and P is the price level, and Q is the amount of the produced goods and services, so-called the quantity produced. Money supply multiplied with the velocity of circulation is equal to price level multiplied with the volume of transactions, which is the production or produced goods and services in the system. Therefore, in this equation, Q on the right-hand side represents the total goods and services are exchanged for money, and P is the number of exchange per transaction, is the value of price of the goods and services. In other words, as I mentioned to you, the price, the value that we are giving to the every product and services. And products of the two is PQ multiplied, will then gives you the so-called, if it is in the aggregate level, the GDP. When you are adding all these price and quantities produced in the economy, will then gives you GDP. The number of this should be equal to the amount of the money which is circulating in the system, which is multiplied with the speed of money, and money in the circulation will then gives you this equation, and it is supposed to be must be equal for balancing the economy. If it is not, then this will then create some problems. The money demand economist Alfred Marshall, the Pigo, and the John Maynard Keynes associate with the Cambridge University, focusing on money demand instead of money supply. Money demand because especially the Keynesian economics supporting the money demand. When you want to accelerate the economy or stimulating the economy, you have to promote the demand side. Either you are reducing the taxes for increasing the amount of the money in the market, in the disposable incomes, or you may give them some income increase, some percentages of increase for enlarging their capacity for shopping. Therefore, money demand instead of money supply is focused in the Keynesian economics, in the others as it is mentioned, and the money supply will not be used for transactions, but instead it will be held for the convenience and security of having cash on hand at a certain portion of the any x of in the graph. The proportion of cash is commonly represented as K. A portion of nominal income is then NY. The Cambridge economists also thought wealth would play a role, but wealth is often omitted for simplicity. Cambridge equation for demand for cash balances is then, will be then introduced as MD is equal to K multiplied with N, which gives the classical dichotomy, and that real income must equal to the expenditures. Q is equivalent to the MD is equal to K multiplied PQ. Assuming that the economy is at equilibrium, MD is equal to MS, and that real economy is exogenous, and that K is fixed in the short run. The Cambridge equation is equivalent to the equation of the exchange with velocity equal to the inverse of K. M multiplied 1 over K is then is equal to P multiplied Q. Here, the quantity theory of money says ME is equal to PQ. Rearranging this, then we get the M over P is then K multiplied with Y, where K is 1 over V. So as price increases or decreases, it is depending, increases, Y decreases, depending to the relationship, which one is going to be up and down. As you are going to see on the graph, if you are increasing the Y, the price is supposed to be reduced if you are increasing, or vice versa. If you are increasing the price, the Y is going to be reduced, or Y is going to be enlarged if the price is down, because the aggregate demand is dependent to the lower prices. If you have the cheaper price, then you are enjoying to shop. Therefore, aggregate demand is promoted when the prices become smaller. If we map this out, we get an aggregate demand function as I show you, and an increase in M, the monetary value, or a decrease in K implies that for any given P, Y is higher, hence an outward shifts of aggregate demand. So you are going to increase it, and this will then accelerate and enlarge the aggregate demand, or vice versa, changing the M as monetary value, the monetary policy in money policy. Also, because of Y is equal to C plus I plus G plus NX, demand side variables can shift the aggregate demand as well. As it is observing here, you see Y is the output, either the consumption, investment, governmental expenditures, and NX is the net export, is going to be enlarged and affects the output. Therefore, any of this will going down and up. This will then affect and change the output, or so-called the produced goods and services in the system. Demand side variable can shift the aggregate demand as well as changing the G or T fiscal policy. As I mentioned to you, when you are reducing the tax policy, when you are reducing the tax percentages in the economy, this will then positively affect and reduce the increase the amount of the income in your pocket, and this will then accelerate the market because you have money to shop. Similarly, a decrease in M or increase in K will shift aggregate demand bilaterally. In the long run, output is determined by factors input Y is equal to FKL and is not dependent on price. As you are observing, this is the production function. Y is the output. You are following me?
Yeah, sure. I'm following you, Professor.
Is anybody in the system? Let's look. Nobody. They are still not in. Okay.
One
As you
another
see,
guy we have, Kevin.
Kevin, he is trying to attend.
He's already in the class.
Ah, Kevin is also. Hi, Kevin. Nice to meet you. You are in the first time in the class, I think. I already added you because you wrote me, isn't it? Kevin, you are hearing me? Kevin, are you on? Kevin is not hearing us.
Maybe his microphone has a problem. Something is wrong with his microphone.
Probably. I don't know. Kevin, do you hear me? You have a problem with your microphone. Kevin, he quit. I don't know. Problem is this. Ah, he's on. Kevin, I think Kevin has a problem with the microphone. I don't know what is it. Kevin, do you hear me? Okay, let's go on. You are I'm going to continue. You are seeing my slides, or shall I have to go on with quitting and coming again? You follow my slides now? You see my slides?
Yeah, yeah, totally. I'm seeing your slides and I'm hearing as well your voice. It's so good.
Okay, yeah, then you are observing here the aggregate demand and aggregate supply in the long run. As you see, the long run aggregate supply curve is a vertical line, which is not effective from the price
Mhm.
changes, but aggregate demand curve is effective because when you are increasing the prices, as you are observing, some changes realize in the aggregate demand since the aggregate supply is stable or is constant. Then this will then shift the aggregate demand curve to the higher level because it is affected from these price changes. In the short run, price is fixed, so the aggregate supply curve is horizontal. As you are observing, the short run aggregate supply curve is supposed to be is a fixed in the especially Keynesian economics. The constant prices is going to affect then aggregate demand again and enlarge it to the Q, so-called the output, to the output, then from aggregate demand to the way which is moving away from the origin. This will then shows how the short-run prices affecting the aggregate supply and demand. The economy begins in the long run equilibrium at point 1. As you are observing, we are in the equilibrium. And at point 1, if aggregate demand shifts out, supposed because the short-term aggregate supply is fixed, then the economy moves from point 1 to point 2 above full employment output because this will then accelerate and shift the aggregate demand. As we approach the long run, there is upward pressure on prices. As prices increase, Y is decreases, and we move along the aggregate demand to point 3. As you see, because of this uh, changes, because of these movements on the price, which is affecting, or pressure, which is affecting and changing the aggregate uh, demand curve and moves to the backward. As you see, the price pressure here then shift the aggregate demand now to the back to the smaller position, and the point 3 is realized because the aggregate supply is reduced. As you are observing, the output is reduced and cause this new position. Fluctuation in the economy can shift either aggregate demand or aggregate supply. Fiscal and monetary policies are able to shift, as I mentioned to you, fiscal and monetary policies. Fiscal policies are the tax policies, and monetary policies are the policy which is affecting and changing the interest rate, changing the some other parameters in the economy by using some bond and stock market papers. I don't know if you are knowing this from the former classes and former.
Hello, sir. Can you hear me
Upload.
now?
Yes, please. Is it Kevin?
Yes, it's Kevin. I think I had a problem with my mic in the computer.
Okay, okay, no problem. You are able to follow us
Yes, I'm following you.
because I think Annie is also on. Only the Rahel is not able to attend. You know, we have next week. After the next week, we have next week one more class.
Yes,
And after the next week, we have the midterm exam. Therefore, you have to prepare yourself. I will upload some more PowerPoints and some
yes,
more PDF data for you to study this class.
yes,
Then we will have some written exam.
yes.
Since you are not able to attend the all classes, I am planning to give you a project after the midterm. Then you will
Okay.
do this project and maybe present online to me,
Mhm.
and then submitting also to me. Then I will give you some 20 points from these presentations or from this assignment. Is that okay for you
Okay,
all?
thank you. It's okay. It's okay for me.
Okay, Annie and Said is okay.
It's okay for me. It's okay for me.
Okay, for the
Yeah,
others.
I have no problem for 2 weeks later, midterm, it's a good for everyone,
After
I
two
think.
weeks, after 2 weeks, you mean, isn't it? You
Yeah,
want one more week, 2 weeks you want.
yeah.
One
In
week is
coming
nothing.
weeks, we will have a lesson, and after that, we will have a exam. It
It's
would be
fine.
good for me. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Then I will do this.
Okay,
Okay, then
thank
we
you.
are going.
Sir,
Yes, Annie.
I
Yes,
want
I'm
to
listening.
ask if I want to ask if the presentation will be to me too. I will present, or it is just for Kevin.
No, no, for all. You are presenting for 10 to 15 minutes. Me, your topic that you prepared for me online. I will get your PowerPoints, and if you are having only PowerPoints, it's okay. Or if you are having also in PDF or in Word documents, I will get it, and we will then listen and see your performance. You see your presentations in the topic that we are going to do in the macro. Okay, in the economy policies. Okay,
Okay.
let's go
Okay.
It
to.
will be
I-
it will
Pardon
be
me.
mm,
after midterm exam.
Yes,
yeah.
after this week, we have one more lesson week. Next week is also a lesson. We will class again. I will give you a lecture, and then after this, then I will give you the exam. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm asking about the presentation that you told me we should present it. Will we do it after exam, after midterm
Yes,
exam, or
yes.
before?
After the midterm, I will give you the topic, so you will prepare it whenever you feel ready. Then you will present it. I am not forcing you to do this week. I am letting you to prepare yourself. Then you will present it whenever you are feeling ready. All then we are doing this. Okay, you are submitting me. I will give you the topic online. I will submit to the system, to the queues, to the maybe Meets, to the Microsoft Teams, maybe then not meet teams, then you will then download it and do it. Either it will be a special for every person, every student, a special assignment, or it will be a general assignment. Then you will present, and we will see which one is presenting better. You understand? Then the other ones
Oh,
we will then complete the presentations gaps which is possibly realized or arise. Is that fine? You determine it. I'm not forcing you. If you want a special topic for yourself, I agree. If you want the topic same, similar, is also fine for me.
I
Is that
will
okay?
choose. I will
We will
choose
dis
a topic for myself, and before presenting, I will share it to you if you accept it. So
okay.
I will present it. This is about after exam,
Yes,
midterm
yes.
exam, so
But
we have
the
the time
yes,
to
the
talk
topic,
about it.
the possible topics, I will distribute you. You are not able to determine which topic you are bringing me. I will give you the topics, and you choose either, or I will give you the same topic for you all. We will determine it later, no problem. Okay, let's go to the lesson now and do it and finish it. Okay, then as I said to you, fiscal and monetary policies are very important for enlarging and increasing the economy, especially from this Keynesian economics, from the aggregate demand, from the demand side. And either you are reducing the tax, or you may do some monetary easing for enlarging the, let's say, money in the market, the disposable income in the market, or money in the circulation for accelerating the activities, economic activities in the system. There are too many possible policies and measures that we will exercise it in the coming chapters. But now on, you are understanding these are the possible interventions of the governments, because in the classical economy, it is not welcome to intervene, to make any intervention to the economy. But in the Keynesian economics, it is allow and let the interventions, governmental interventions to the economy for maintaining sustainable economical model for welfare. Anyway, because of these shocks, which possibly realize in the aggregate demand, can be corrected with P and Y returning to the pre-shock levels, as I mentioned to you, by using these policies, by using these measures. However, if there were a supply shock, then a policy adjustment would imply a trade-off between Y and P. Y is the output, P is the price, and between these two, there must be a reasonable, let's say, parallel uh, measures for balancing the economy. The alternative would be to wait for the shock to pass it, or with a negative supply shock accommodating, the shock would mean returning the economy to Y, causing a higher P in the long run, as I already mentioned to you. This will then cause some effects to the economy, because in the long run, the supply is fixed, is vertical, and results of this, some increase may be realized and shift the aggregate demand to the upper level. As you are observing here, it is shifted to an enlarge and go to the outward direction. And I come to the first part of our presentation, the conclusion. We construct the aggregate demand, aggregate supply curve with the quantity theory of money, as I presented you shortly. And the aggregate demand was derived from the quantity theory of money, as illustrated and interpreted with the functions of the economy. In the short run, P is sticky, is a stable constant, is supposed to be, and short-term aggregate supply is horizontal, but in the long run it is vertical, the aggregate supply curve, and Y inputs determine Y, and P is variable, so long-run aggregate supply long-run aggregate supply curve is vertical, as it is represented to you in the last curve. Also, this is the short-run aggregate supply curve, which is shifted, results of this long-run aggregate supply. In the short period, it is shifted and higher the aggregate demand, but in the long run, the aggregate supply curve is not affected from these price changes, but in the short run, it is affected, and it is causing some shifts on the aggregate demand curve. Okay, now I'm going to upload the other part of the presentation. I will quit this. I will open the other one. Let's go. This one. Okay. I have to share with you again my screen. Do you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we can share it. We can see it.
Okay, fine then. Oh, we are going to a little bit explaining this quant theory of money. The money, as you know, is the set of assets in economy that people regularly use to buy goods and services, and it is very important, of course. And inflation is the rising of the general price level. Therefore, it is very important for balancing the economy. If the inflation is very high, we call this hyperinflation. If it is above 40%, 50%, this is hyperinflation. And it is not good for the economy. Your purchasing power parity is decreasing. The purchasing capacity is reduced, and the real economical variables becoming very poor. Interest rate will, nominal interest rate will go up regarding to this inflation, and these are all affecting the amount of the money in the system. You are not able to borrow some money for realizing some investments, some activities. These are all becomes as a multiplier effects in the economy, causing some exchange rates. Foreign currencies will become higher, appreciated. Domestic currency will depreciate. Results of this, because you need too much money buy something. Therefore, your money becomes poor and poor and becomes weak currency in the global markets, in the international markets. And this is not good. This is not good for the whole economy, as you are understanding. The inflation is in every country a problem, but in some emerging economies, such as in Turkey, in African countries, in Nigeria, in some other rich countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, maybe because the yuan is not very popular, very good currency. Turkish lira, not good currency for international transactions. Naira in Nigeria, not good currency. These are very problematic. You know, when you are holding these currencies, it is creating problem because nobody want to buy your currency. Nobody want to use your currency because it is continuously depreciating. It is continuously devaluating and reducing its value. And when you are buying this currency and changing with dollar, for example, dollar will become always appreciated and your currency will become depreciated. And when you need to buy again this dollar for international transactions, for trade transactions, for trade relations, for trade payments, this will then require more, let's say, Turkish lira or more naira. And this is not good. Then you have to buy always more and more. You will require always more currency to do this transaction. And this is not good for the economy. And by time, as you are observing in Turkey currently in last year, we had some inflation, which we call this hyperinflation because it is above 40%, 50% inflation. And it is also giving some consolidated budget, consolidated income to the workers, to the wages, to the salaries. But even if these wages and these compensations and this compensation income, compensated income, which is given to the workers, to the employee, the staff, the people, not sufficiently helping hand to balancing their economical conditions because the price is continuously increasing and this is then causing some problem. Similarly, these kind of problems was the subject in the Germany in the war period before after the first world war in 1915. As you observed, this was a very big problem. They had a problem with this issue, and it must be restructuring and reorganizing everything and reforming the country. Everything was very destroyed, and it was very bad situation. But in the current days, we have no such a big wars or no such a big problems in the world, but we have some so-called Cold War. The countries trying to become and dominate each other, these sovereignty problems and these, let's say, uh, becoming some dominant international competitor or marketer in the economy is becoming more eligible than the war because Germany, for example, still in the first runner or second runner in the world economies. United States similarly, China also, but Chinese currency is not very good currency, and it is of course causing some problem to the domestic economy. This is problem, of course. The yuan, when yuan is very poor currency, then how we are going to manage it to uh, make this inter transactions? You are understanding this is the big issue. People working with $50 or $100 in China, but they are very crowded communities, populations, and this is then a helping hand for being able to enlarge and increase the economy because they are using too many person in the production operation process with cheaper wages, with very poor and weak wages. This will then give them chance to enlarge and increase the economy because there is a big, huge market and there is also very cheap labor force, so-called the wages, the production function dependent especially capital and labor. And since the labor wages very cheap and the capital is then creates too much because of this, when you have capital, you can employ too many people because they are very cheap. You can produce much larger, so-called the economics of scale, then applied in the China and enlarge the economy very highly. And these things then giving chance to the Chinese producers. For sure, most of the producers are foreigners, but they are able to become the dominant position in the global market because they are capturing most of the market, because most of the trademarks are in China. The Siemens, the Mercedes, the Hewlett Packard, all trademarks are in China, are the producers, and they are able to produce and enlarge their economies with a cheaper prices, with a cheaper and lower cost and higher profits. And this is the reason why China is becoming in the second runner or the third runner also in the global international markets. As I said, inflation was the big issue in the economy, and it was also observed in many countries. During the 90s, price rose at an average rate of 2% per year, which was not too high. But in the 70s, price rose by 7% per year. As you are observing, this was the uh, historical aspect. But when you are looking to the current problem in the emerging economies, they are having big issue with this devaluation and with this inflation, because they are having most of the emerging economies observe exercising some 40%, 50% or more than these price increases the economies, and this is then some problem the GDP. From this point of view, when we are coming to the quantity theory of money, which I mentioned to you, it is MV is equal to PQ. Therefore, the amount of the money in the market, in the circulation, is becoming very eligible for affecting and changing the produced goods and services, so-called the GDP. The quantity theory of money is used to explain the long-run determinants and the price level and the inflation rate, as well as inflation is economy-wide phenomenon that concerns the value of the economy's medium of exchange. And when the overall price level rises, the value of the money is expected to fall because it is reducing its value, because price level, when they go up, is affecting the money in the circulation. Therefore, this is not good for the economy as it is in the of money rated and represented. The money supply is a policy variable that is controlled by the central bank. FIT is the Federal Reserve System of the United States, and it is affecting and changing the money supply very easily when you are changing this price or going up or down, because when you are increasing the prices, it is expected that the wage is also affected, or vice versa. When the prices fall down, then the wages is also expected to affect it from this price fall. But usually the price is going up, and the wages, so-called the salaries, must be also consolidated. And results of this circulation, economy will stagnating, because this will then cause too much problem. Inflation, as I mentioned to you, cause price increase. Price increase cause economically problem to the producer, because if the price increase is enlarged and the products are not able to be sold in the market, then they have to give some wages increase, or they have to increase the wages for letting them to shop, being able to shop. Otherwise, there will be a shortage in the economy. Due to this reason, one price increase cause some wage increase, or salary increase, or income increase. And as I said to you, when the price is going up, general price level, of course, the inflation is causing some interest rate increase. And when the interest rate is increased, then it is expected that the saving rate is also affected, or the borrowing is also affected. And it goes like this. When the price is going up, it is expected export is going to be enlarged. If it is all the production operation process is realized in the domestic market and internal goods, then it is good for the economy, but is not good for the economies if the foreign input is used and you are trying to export to the foreign countries, because you are not able to buy the foreign input with this cheap or weak currency, which is devaluated, which is because of inflation becomes weaker and cheaper currency. Then you are not able to buy this input because you need more dollar, more let's say Turkish lira to buy this. You have to change it in dollar and buy these inputs to produce or maintain your production operation process, especially currently the gas and energy problems, which is coming from Russia and some other Azerbaijan and some other Asian countries. They are stagnating the economies in the Europe, in every countries. They are having some economical problems because energy prices becoming very higher and very expensive. And results of this, they are not able to produce cheaply to become competitive in the international market. And this was the big issue in the current period of time. If you are observing in the Germany, in some other countries, there was a huge shortage in the energy and gas problem. And these things, of course, affecting and changing the whole economy. As you are understanding, money is the big determinant and big and inflation also player in the economy. Therefore, it must be very strictly and carefully treated. Money demand has several determinants, and including interest rates and the average of the level of the price are all, as I mentioned to you, and other parameters affected results of this money demand and results of these price changes. If the people hold money, then it is the medium of exchange. Then the amount of money people choose to hold depends on the price of the goods and services. If the price is becoming expensive, they are requiring more money to spend and shop. If the price is going down, then they don't need too much money, then they can save in the bank. Therefore, price stability and a strong price currency and prices, stable prices and strong currency is preferred in the economies for balancing the economy. Otherwise, it will then create some problems to the economy, as I mentioned to you in the former slides. When we are coming to the supply side of the economy, how we are going to manage this supply of money in the modern economy and the financial system, which is going to be controlled by the central bank, what to do for balancing and managing this market structure for not creating too much problem to the economy. The open market operations, for example, is the one of the important tool of the central bank. The expansionary money policy, contractionary money policy are becoming very eligible in the economy. Expansionary money policy is the reason for enlarging the economy by buying some bonds and distributing some money to the market. This is expansionary money policy, and vice versa. The contractionary money policy, you are selling some bonds from the market and you're collecting the money. This will then reduce the money in the market. If there is too much money supply in the market, then this is the first and most important tool of the central bank for controlling the money market. There is also a reserve requirement imposed by the banks, imposed on the banks, sorry, from the central banks. This is the percentage of deposits made by customers at the bank that the bank must keep hold of rather than lending it out. This is usually 10 to 15% is supposed to be the total amount of loanable fund must be kept in the banking sector, or just in case if any problems, if any unexpected situation happens, be able to use. Or if somebody comes and demand a huge amount of capital or money from the bank, then they have to this money to deliver. So the policy interest rate, the so-called the discount rate, is set by the central bank. The rate of the interest will influence how many households and businesses are willing and able to borrow. Most money in a modern economy is created by commercial banks lending, so the rate of interest ultimately does have a bearing on the supply of money. Therefore, interest rate is also important tool or instrument of the central bank for controlling the money supply, which is set, as I said to you, by the central bank for being able to uh, sell some bonds or some other treasury bills to the uh, banking sector for being able to create some capital. Um, Key factors affecting demand: money, the rate of interest for the loans, the number value of monetary transaction that we expect to carry out, and the extent to which we all want to hold other financial assets such as bond, property, savings. This is also influenced by the rate of interest. This is known as the speculative motive for holding money. The changes in the GDP is also affecting the demand money. Extent to which it is possible to use debit card, credit cards, the pace of financial innovation, extent to which we might have to pay out large unexpected payments or precautionary motives, and the rate of anticipated inflation. And demand for money, what is affecting and influencing the individuals expected returns or interest? As you know, everybody is very attractively affecting from this interest rate. If it is high, everybody wants to save money relative to the expected returns on the other assets. If this goes up, then it is good. Everybody wants to save, which is good for the economy. Then they will have some capital for investing. And the risk factor is also very important. If there is a risky business, you're scared to do something. But there is always some risk. You cannot remove the risk. There is also some reduction, maybe 20% by buying some uh, insurance, buying some other kind of portfolio, diversifying the investment, or maybe you may use different aspect by using different, let's say, model in the economy. But usually this, as I said to you, you buy insurance, diversify this capital or this transaction, different version of different kind of production operation process, or investment also possibly reducing the risk, but never remove it. Think you buy insurance, full insurance for your car, but this doesn't mean that you are securing your life by buying this insurance, or you buying life insurance, and this doesn't mean that you are securing your life fully. You just risk reducing the risk of any unexpected let's say accident or unexpected some illness or something, but this is always possibly realized, removing the risk, which approximately 20% risk is always expected uh, life business, which might unexpectedly reduce the purchasing power. As I said to you, the holding money derives principally from unexpected inflation. As I said to you, this is also possibly create some problem to the financial sector. When you are holding this too much money in the economy, this may also cause some problem. You are creating this inflation by holding. This is also unexpected, reduce the purchasing power of the reduced liquidity. A new it is a need for greater liquidity occurs when either the price of transaction increases or the quantity of goods normally bought in transaction increases, vice versa. either the liquidity amount is circulation is increased, or the goods in the market, the services in the market is enlarged, as in summer, is bilaterally affecting each other. If the goods enlarge, let's say watermelon in summer is very cheap because it is enlarged the production, and in winter it becomes expensive. Similarly, the amount of the money is same written. If the amount of the money in the system is much, then this will cause inflation. If there is limited, then this will then somehow some other issues. The value or increased value because of this amount of money is in the market or in the system, in the circulation, increase and decrease and affect the all I mentioned to of the price increase. Income, greater income implies more goods and services can be bought. As I mentioned too, if you have higher income, you are always enjoying to shop. So the more money is needed to conduct transactions. If you are having this, then it's no problem. A higher real income is also for the economies, for the countries, GDP and GNP, gross national income, means more goods and services are being produced and bought in transactions, increasing the need for liquidity, higher money demanded. But here is also, I have to inform you, sometimes gross national income, not the real gross national, not the real income, just only nominal income increase because of this inflation. You are having the same production as the last year. Nobody increased the capacity. You have the similar production, similar goods and services in the market, but the inflation shift the prices very high, and you are having very huge amount of capital or national income, gross national income in the economy comparing to the former year because of this price increase. This is not the mean that you are increasing the economy. This is not the mean that the amount of the goods and services produced in the year is enlarged. This is just only because of the inflation. And the most of the politicians using these nominal variables for exaggerating the economical performance, and they are telling that our economies, our national income increased 20% from last year to this year, and talking about the monetary values only, which is not a realistic and reliable information. The aggregate money demand is given here. The money demand is supposed to be P multiplied with L, R, and Y. P is the price, Y is the national income, R is the nominal interest rate, and L is the aggregate real money demand. And when we are going to replace and divide it to the each part, then we will have then MD divided to P is equal to L multiplied RY. Therefore, MD or money demand dividing to price will be then aggregate real money demand, which is then real value represented of the economy in money demand. It is the function of the national income, and it is the nominal interest rate. Here it is given the aggregate real money demand, as you are observing, the L, and the interest rate, the y-axis. As you see, there is an inverse relationship between each other. As much as you are increasing the interest rate, you are enlarging the real money demand, aggregate real money demand. Or vice versa, you are going to use, then cause some increase of this, then becoming, or if the interest rate fall down, this will then shift the money demand or real money demand. Right. Downward sloping real money demand schedule shows that for a given real income level, Y and real money demand rises as the interest rate falls, as I mentioned to you. In the figure is also illustrated the real money demand. Effects on the aggregate real money demand schedule of a rise in the real income. Suppose that the real income shift from L, let's say Y2, Y1 to Y2, LRY1 to LRY2, the income, the Y here is the disposable income, is shifted to the right, to the upward from the origin, and an increase in the real income from Y1 to Y2 raises the demand for real money balances at every level of the interest rate and causes the whole demand schedule to shift upward. You are following me? If you have any question, you may ask me. Do you have any question?
No, so far I don't have any type of question.
Okay,
No, sir.
thank
We have no question.
because I am going a little bit faster.
Just voice, there is a max on your voice sometimes. I don't know why is that happening. Is it because of internet or the
What's
other
happening?
reason?
Interrupted.
Yeah, it's like a max. When you are talking, then we have a voice that it entrap. Yeah.
Maybe
It's,
outside. Maybe outside, you mean?
now
Because there are.
it's
No, your voice. Sometimes is normal, is okay, but sometimes is lower.
I don't know why it is so. Well, I don't know. Maybe because of the internet. Sometimes it. I have the strong internet. I don't know why it is so. Maybe the outside noise coming. I don't know really why it is. Why this is happens. I will ask the internet supplier why this is happens. Okay, let's go through. I will go some pages because this is longer per presentation. I will go some, then stop, because if I'm going through all, then this will be too much for you for today. The next lecture, we will then do the next with the applications. Okay, the money market use the aggregate money demand and aggregate money supply, MSMD. Alternatively, we can define equilibrium using the supply of real money and the demand for real money by dividing both sides by the price level. This will then real values. This will then gives you the real values, as you know, for the real terms. This equilibrium condition will yield an equilibrium nominal interest rate when it is divided to the R to pay. It is then real interest rate or real money supply or real money demand. Okay, here the money market equilibrium is represented. The interest rate is on the R, y-axis, and real money holding is on the x-axis. MP is the real money supply, and R is the interest rate. Here is represented with real money supply, the vertical line, which is not affected from the interest rate in the long run, and aggregate real money demand. As it is observed, it is inverse related to the interest rate. As much as you are reducing the interest rate, the aggregate real money demanded is enlarged because everybody can cheaply demand or borrow this credit, isn't it? This will then gives the borrowers, the let's say investors, chance to enlarge and increase the economical activities. I will read the paragraph. With P and Y given and a real money supply of the M divided P, money market equilibrium is at point one is realized, where you are observing the real money supply is intersecting money demand. At this point, aggregate real money demand and the real money supply are equal at the equilibrium interest rate, as you are observing here, R1. And as I mentioned to you, regarding to this increase and decrease on the interest rate, will shift this real money supply to the right or to the left. As it is given here, the effects of the increase in the money supply on the interest rate for a given reason. If the price level P and real income level is Y, an increase in the money supply from M1 to M2 reduce the interest rate from R1 to R2 or vice versa. Results of this enlargement, you can increase or decrease the interest rate, which is cause some reduction on the money supply. Either you do the interest rate intervention to balance the economy, or the money supply is enlarging the system or reducing the system, then you reduce the interest rate and cause some money supply or pump money to the system. This will then cause some money supply enlargement in the system, or vice versa. You will then shift the money. You want to enlarge the money, you want to reduce the money supply in the system, then you will then increase the interest rate, and this will then cause the opposite side. This will then reduce the money supply and shift to the, again, the former position, or vice versa. As I mentioned to you, if you want to pump up the money, you have to reduce the interest rate to enlarge it, or if the money supply is enlarged in the system, then you do the same. Here, given the real money supply, M divided P, so-called real money supply, a rise in the real income from Y1 to Y2, as you are observing, shifted to the upper, moving away from the origin, rises the interest rate from R1 to R2, as mentioned to you. Results of this income increase, the interest rate is supposed to be enlarged, and real money supply is expected also to increase. In the long run, the overall level of the price adjusts to the level at which the demand for money equals the supply. Value of money and price are inversely proportional. Increases in the money supply reduces the value of money and increases the demand, because consumer will need more money to buy or shop. Price increase cause inflation, and this reduces the value of money, and it is the depreciation of the currency. Opposite is the appreciation of the money. Price decrease cause deflation and increase value of the money. Here is also given the quantity of money is represented here, and the value of money, which is the related with the negative money demand, money supply, then is becoming ineffective and intact from this value changes, from this, let's say, price change. Is also on the right side is represented. The left side, the value, on the right side is the price. As you are observing, when it is going up, it is causing some reduction on the money demand, and the money supply is, as you know, from the central bank, is determined the money supply. Either it is used by the quantitative easing or monetary easing policies to enlarge and increase the money. As I mentioned to you, open market operation or other reserve requirement and discount rate policies may be used for enlarging the money supply. Because of this, quantity is supposed to be fixed by the central bank, but the money demand is affected from this price change and value changes, and quantity demand will be then moving up and down regarding to these value changes and the price changes. And as you are observing here, when the money supply is shifted to the MS2, then the expected money demand is becoming enlarged, because suppose that the central bank is enlarged the money demand, money supply, sorry, and results of this, then increase in the money supply cause decrease in the value of the money, because as I said to you, when you are enlarging the money in the system, this is a devaluation, this is the decreasing the value of the money, and this will then cause an increase in the price level. As you observe here, the price level is going up because of this negative effect. Is it clear? Okay, the quantity theory of money, how the price level is determined and why it might change over time, is called the quantity theory of money, as I have mentioned in the last presentation in the former points. The price level is determined and why it might change over time is called the quantity theory of money. As much as the prices increase and decrease. This will then affect the amount of the money in the system. The quantity of money available in the economy determines the value of the money, as you observe in the former graph. As much as the amount of the money enlarged, the value of money is decreasing, and this is then causing some inflation. You saw and understand this graphic, isn't it? You have any problem with this graph? On the look on the left side, there is the value of money. It is started from 0 and goes to 1. This represents the high, and on the right side there is price level, which is on the upper level, it is the low, and when it is going down, it is the high level, which means the inflation, because inflation is reducing its value. It is increasing the amount, or it is increasing the numbers, but it is decreasing the value. Therefore, between value and price, there is inverse relationship. And as you are observing the quantity of money when it is enlarged, this will then cause a decrease on the value, but increase on the inflation. This must be a good example and a graphic for you for understanding the impact of the inflation and the value relationship when the demand and the supply is affected, change. Okay, is it clear? The primary
Yeah,
cause of
Yes, it's clear.
yeah.
okay, the primary cause of inflation is the growth in the quantity of money. As I said to you, quantity of money enlarged, and the inflation increased, and the value decreased. And the nominal variables are the measured in the monetary units. Nominal variables are the money which is in the current value, which is the value you are able to sell and buy. And the real variables are the variables which is based on the let's say 13 years. You are going to compare the values of the variables and the value of the any currency regarding to the let's say 2020, for being able to determine its purchasing power parity. The purchasing power parity is becoming more eligible. In 2020, you are buying, let's say, with let's say 100 Turkish lira, let's say 20 bread, and now you are able to buy 10 bread. Let's say it is 10 Turkish lira. Then this means the bread price in 2 years or less than 2 years, almost 100% increase. This estimation is real variable and real estimation, and the other one is nominal variable. You just only tell me in 100 Turkish lira, I am buying, let's say 10 bread. But in the 2020, I was able to buy 20 bread. This is the comparison. Nominal variables is the current value, and real variables is the constant value, which means you are going to estimate its real value depending to the, or dependent, it is dependent to the purchasing power parity. And the classical dichotomy and the monetary neutrality is also important in the economy. The Hume and the others also investigated and suggested these economical theories. Real economic variables not change with changes in the money supply. The real economic variables do not change with changes in the money supply, which means, according to the classical dichotomy, different forces influence real and nominal variables. As I mentioned to you, it is affected from the other variables, which is multiplier effects, is the inflation affecting and changing the whole system regarding to this, let's say, changes in the economy. Changes in the money supply affect the nominal variables, but not the real variables. Therefore, changes in the money supply, as you observe in the graph, only affects the nominal variables, which means you are only changing the nominal variables, amount of the money, the monetary value, not the real value. This will then estimate it after considering some base years and some current years, for being able to compare and determine what impact or how this changes or inflationary pressure or measures or value changes cause some effects on the economy. The irrelevance of monetary changes for real variables is called monetary neutrality. Irrelevance of monetary changes for real variables is the monetary neutrality. This is very good to know. The velocity of money refers to the speed at which the typical dollar bills goes valley to valley, so place to place, and how many, what is the speed of this money for circulating in the system, then the is the speed of money, so-called the velocity, is the circulation period of the money, whether it is very faster and very quickly circulating and affecting the economy, or very slowly and very sluggishly affecting the economy. Here is also given the MVPQ, but here, as I said to you, V is divided with M and it's transferred to the other part, other side of the equation, and velocity is equal to P multiplied Q is divided to M. P here is the price, Y or Q is here is the quantity produced and sell, and M is the quantity of money or monetary value, the amount. Rewriting the equation, MV is PQ or PY. The quantity equation refers the quantity of money to the nominal value of the output. P multiplied Y is the value of the nominal given in the economy. The quantity equation shows that an increase in the quantity of money in an economy must be reflected in one of three other variables. The price level must rise, the quantity of output must rise, or the velocity of money must fall. These are very important. Quantity equation shows that an increase in the quantity of money in an economy must be reflected in one of three other variables. So any increase, if it is happened, an increase in the quantity of money, either the price level is increased, the quantity of output is increased, or the speed of money is reduced. And here is given the nominal GDP and real GDP. For nominal GDP and velocity is given here. Quantity theory, quantity of money. As you are observing between 16 and 2000, the velocity is almost somehow steadily realized, but nominal GDP is increasing. And M2 is the money, and the other M2 is the coins, cash, and some other bonds in the market. As you are observing, parallelly increase until 90s, and then nominal GDP is somehow is enlarged, probably because of this circulation, which is affecting and changing the nominal value in the economy, because of inflation maybe. The equilibrium price, inflation rate, and the quantity of money. The velocity of money is relatively stable over time. When the central bank changes the quantity of money, it causes proportionate changes in the nominal variable of output, P multiplied Q. Because money is neutral, money does not affect output. And hyperinflation, as I said to you, above 40-50% is realized. And here it is given the money and price during the hyperinflations. As you are observing, the price level and the money supply, you are observing almost parallelly realized. Prices are always a little bit higher than Austria and Hungary is compared. Germany and Poland is also given here. Clearly, as you see, very high period and price very high. And tax, when we are subjecting tax, as I mentioned to you, is also important. When you are taxing anything, this will then cause inflation because it is reducing the amount of money in your hand. If I am taxing your income, your disposable income 20%, then you will get, let's say, if you get 10,000 Turkish lira, you will get 8,000 Turkish, or you will get 7,000 Turkish lira. This will then cause you a reduction in your purchasing power and your selling capacity. An inflation tax is like a tax on everyone who holds money. The inflation ends when the government institutes fiscal reforms, such as cutting the government spending. The Fisher effect refers to one-to-one adjustment of the nominal interest rate to the inflation rate. As I said to you, the Fisher is supposed to be the real interest rate must be equal to nominal interest rate minus inflation, and this will then give you somehow zero. At least must be nominal interest rate and inflation must be zero, must be equal to zero, and this will then cause some, sorry, I mean the differences must be zero between inflation and nominal interest rate. The differences between these two must be zero for balancing the real interest rate. Otherwise, this will then cause some reduction on the value. Therefore, if the value of the money is decreasing, this will then cause some other options. Nobody will want anymore to save and hold this domestic currency as currently we are observing. Nobody hold Turkish lira in the hand because it is depreciating very highly, and people prefer to buy some dollar or euro for saving purpose because Turkish lira is depreciating and it is losing its value very quickly. Therefore, it's not good. Yeah, the nominal interest rate and inflation is given somehow. And as you are observing, it must be somehow parallelly. If the inflation is above the nominal interest rate, it is not good. But if the nominal interest rate is below, if the nominal interest rate above the inflation, it is good because this will then cause some protection for the savers. But here, as you are observing, the nominal interest rate in some periods between 1970s to 80s, the inflation higher than the nominal interest rate, and then after 80s it goes again down, the inflation becomes lower than the nominal interest rate. Therefore, it is acceptable for the savers for holding the currency in their hands because as I said to you, between nominal interest rate and inflation, it must be at least zero differences, or nominal interest rate minus inflation must be a positive value for preventing the real interest value. A fall in purchasing power. Inflation does not itself reduce the people's real purchasing power. I will finish this because I'm already done, so I don't wanna repeat it. I will go through to finish. If you don't want, I can stop. Do you want me to go on or you want me to stop? Is okay?
I think for today it's enough,
Okay, then.
Professor.
Okay, then I will stop here.
You
The
can
cost of
stop, sir.
okay, the cost of inflation, then I will go next week. Then I stop
Yeah.
here. Then next week I will finish this and then go to the Keynesian economics for introducing you the policies of the Keynesian with ISLM little bit. Or maybe I will give you some other issues for your exam. Then finish it. May give you some applications for calculations. Then finish for the midterm. Okay. Okay. Then,
Okay, so I have a question. Do you are you going to give us a sample question for the exam?
yes, yes. I will upload it, but let me first finish next week. Or I will prepare it, but I have to present you first, and then I will give you. Then you will then exercise it. Don't worry. Okay, thank you for you coming and you joining this online class. Then next week, then we will do the last class, and then after this, you will have the midterm exam. And I will upload the videos to YouTube also. I don't know if you are watching these videos. It will be in Ergin Fikri Akalpler. There is a YouTube because I am not able to upload this to the Teams because there is a restricted time for being able to hold these videos in Teams, and you can watch in YouTube anytime. Repeat and watch it and stop and listen it, and then this will then help you to understand.
So which channel, please?
There is no channels. There is only this is YouTube Ergin Fikri, Ergin Akalple. If you write Ergin Akalple, Professor Ergin Akalple, you will see this, and I will upload for you this. I will put the code number, the pin 512, and I will let you to watch the classes all. Okay.
Okay.
I already uploaded some classes. This will be also uploaded to you after this lesson. Okay, then if you don't have any question, I will finish this class. Do you have
Okay,
any
it's okay for me.
questions? Okay, then thank you very much. Have a
Thank
nice
you.
weekend.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you, sir. Have a nice day. Have a nice night.
Thank you.